Copenhaver's Hermetica, Chapter 2. Is it not true, Asclepius, that everything moved is moved in something and by something? Certainly. But isn't it necessary for that in which something is moved to be larger than the moved? It is necessary. So then the mover is stronger than the moved? Stronger indeed. And that in which something is moved must necessarily have a nature contrary to that of the moved. Yes, entirely so. This cosmos is large then, and no body is larger? Agreed. And is it densely packed? For it has been filled with many other large bodies, or rather, with all the bodies that exist. So it is. But is the cosmos a body? A body, yes. And a moved body? Certainly. The place in which it moves, then, how large must it be, and what is its nature? Is it not larger by far so as to sustain continuity of motion, and not hold back its movement lest the moved be crowded and confined? It must be something truly enormous, Hermeticus. What is its nature? It will be of a contrary nature, Asclepius, no? But the nature of contrary to body is the incorporeal. Agreed. Place is incorporeal, then, but the incorporeal is either divine or else it is God. By divine I mean here the unbegotten, not the begotten. If it is divine, it is something essential. But if it is God, it comes to be even without essence. Otherwise, it is something intelligible, and this is why. For us, God is the foremost intelligible entity, but not so for God himself. What is intelligible falls within the awareness of one who thinks of it. Thus, for himself, God is not intelligible because he is not something distinct from the object of his thought, i.e., so as to be an object of thought for himself. For us, however, he is something distinct, hence he is an object of thought for us. But if place is intelligible, it is intelligible not as God, but as place, and if it were intelligible as God, it would be regarded so not as place, but as energy capable of containing. Yet everything moved is moved not in something moved, but in something at rest. And the mover is also at rest, unable to be moved conjointly. How then, O Trismegistus, are the things of this world moved conjointly with their movers? You have said that planetary spheres are moved by the spheres of the fixed. This motion, Asclepius, is not conjoint but opposed, for the spheres are not moved in the same way. They move contrary to one another, and the contrariety keeps the motion balanced through opposition. Resistance is the stilling of motion. Since the planetary spheres are moved contrarily to a fixed, but a contrary encounter with them, they are moved because of their balance in relation to the contrariety itself. It cannot be otherwise. For example, those bears that you see neither setting nor rising, but turning about the same point, do you think they are moved or at rest? They are moved, Hermeticus. What sort of motion, Asclepius? Motion revolving around some points. Revolution is the same thing as motion about the same point that is held in place by immobility. Going around it prevents going beyond it. But when the going beyond is prevented, there is resistance to the going around. And thus the contrary motion remains constant, stabilized by the contrariety. I will give you an example here on earth, one that your eyes can see. As they swim, observe mortal living beings. Those like a human, I mean. When the water rushes by, the resistance of feet and hands becomes an immobility, so that the person is not swept downstream by the water. A clear example, Hermeticus. Thus, all motion is moved in immobility and by immobility. And it happens that the motion of the cosmos and of every living thing made of matter is produced not by things outside the body, but by those within it acting upon the outside, by intelligible entities, either soul or spirit or something else incorporeal. For body does not move in souled body, nor does it move any body at all, not even the soulless. How do you mean this, Trismeticus? Are they not bodies that move sticks and stones and all other soulless things? By no means, Asclepius. Not the body itself, but what it is within the body that moves the soulless thing is what moves them both. The body that bears as well as the body that is born. Hence the soulless will not move the soulless, and so you see how the soul is overloaded when it bears two bodies by itself. And so it is clear that things moved are moved in something and by something. Must things that are moved be moved in emptiness, Trismeticus? Hold your tongue, Asclepius. Not one of the things that are is empty, by reason of their substantiality. For a being could not be a being if it were not full of substance. The subsistent can never become empty. Are not some things empty, Trismeticus, such as a pail or a pot or a vat or other such things? Ah, what a great mistake, Asclepius. Would you consider empty the things that are entirely and completely full? Ah, what a great mistake, Asclepius. Would you consider empty the things that are entirely and completely full? What do you mean, Trismeticus? Air is a body, no? Yes, it is a body. But does not this body pervade everything that exists and fill them all by pervading them? And a body is a mixture constituted of the four elements, is it not? So all those things that you call empty are full of air. But if they are full of air, they are also full of the four bodies, and so it turns out that a contrary account comes to light, that the things you call full are all empty of air, since they are crowded with these other bodies and have no place to take in the air. Therefore, the things you call empty must be named hollow rather than empty, for in their substance they are full of air and spirit. Your reasoning is irrefutable, Trismeticus. So what have we said of the place in which the universe is moved? That it is incorporeal, Asclepius. What is the incorporeal, then? Mind as a whole, wholly enclosing itself, free of all body, unerring, unaffected, untouched, at rest in itself, capable of containing all things and preserving all that exists, and its rays, as it were, are the good, the truth, the archetype of spirit, the archetype of soul. What then is God? God is what does not subsist as any of these, since he is the cause of their being, for all of them and for each and every one of them that exists. And he has left nothing else remaining that is not being, for all things are those that come to be from things that are, not from those that are not. Things that are not do not have a nature that enables them to come to be. Their nature is such that they cannot come to be anything. Things that are, on the other hand, do not have a nature that prevents them from ever existing. What do you mean by what never exists? God is not mind, but he is the cause of mind's being. He is not spirit, but the cause of spirit's being. And he is not light, but the cause of light's being. Hence one must show God reverence with those two names assigned to him alone and no other. Except God alone, none of the other beings called gods, nor any human, nor any demon can be good in any degree. That good is he alone, and none other. All others are incapable of containing the nature of the good, because they are body and soul, and have no place that can contain the good. For the magnitude of the good is as great as the substance of all beings, corporeal and incorporeal, sensible and intelligible. This is the good. This is God. You should not say that anything else is good, or you will speak profanely. Nor should you ever call God anything but the good, since this too would be profane. All use the word good in speaking, of course, but not all understand what it can mean. For this reason, God is not understood by all. In their ignorance, they apply the name good to the gods and to certain humans, even though these beings are never able to be good or to become so. The good is what is inalienable and inseparable from God, since it is God himself. All other immortal gods are given the name good as an honor, but God is the good by nature, not because of honor. God has one nature, the good. In God and the good together, there is but one kind, from which come all other kinds. The good is what gives everything and receives nothing. God gives everything and receives nothing. Therefore God is the good, and the good is God. God's other name is Father, because he is capable of making all things. Making is characteristic of a father. Prudent people therefore regard the making of children as a duty in life to be taken most seriously and greatly revered. And should any human being pass away childless, they see it as the worst misfortune and irreverence. After death, such a person suffers retribution from demons. This is his punishment. The soul of the childless one is sentenced to a body that has neither a man's nature nor a woman's, a thing accursed under the sun. Most assuredly, then, Asclepius, you should never congratulate a childless person. On the contrary, show pity for his calamity, knowing what punishment awaits him. This is the content and the extent of what should be told to you, Asclepius, by way of introduction to the nature of all things. End of chapter 2.